Hey, dudes. Oh, and dudesses. Can't forget those. Are you all right? Are you all right? We're in Norfolk. What do you mean I can't say that? Of course I can. How you got a light, boy? How's that? How's that? Oh, God, it's one of those days. I've had too much caffeine. Put me in my straitjacket. Take me away. It's Simon Pink with that music show. Let's rock the radio. This is a show for musicians, for people that love music, have a passion for music. Be like me, really. And you. Come on, you will be listening to it, not. We've had some great guests on, haven't we? We've had some great guests. I can see you all nodding at the moment. Yes, we have. We had Mike Ward in a few weeks back, talking about the bands that he's booked. He'll be back again in the next few weeks, talking about booking Duran Duran, OMD, The Beat, loads of other bands he's booked. We went out on fishing a few weeks ago from Egypt as well. One of my heroes. Talking about people like Chuck Berry that he's played for, Muddy Waters that he's played with, Free, supporting the Beatles. It was amazing. We've got Andy Rodwell coming up hopefully in the next week or two. Class musician. If you've ever seen Pure Floyd show, you will have seen him. He's not with them anymore. And he also plays for a Hendrix tribute act, which I'm part of, called Purple Jimmy. I'm looking forward to that. But this week, we've got someone from the UK centre of music up in the northwest, from Liverpool. Liverpool, say that, Liverpool. He's a punk rock expert. This week, we'll be talking to the one and only, the legend, Mr. Kevin Wilkinson. Can't wait. I can't wait. Woo-hoo-hoo. Bring it on, Simon. Bring it on. Here we go. Try some of this. Bring on the drums.
nothing's perfect. You and me, we're gonna see. Oh, we're gonna see.
Hi there, it's Simon Pink from Poppyland Radio. How you doing out there? It's a wonderful day, isn't it? It really is. Nice, bright, shiny day. I've got a guest with us now. This guy I've known for a number of years, top musician, and knows a lot of big names from the music world that we're going to hear all about. I want to introduce you guys to a friend of mine called Kevin Wilkinson. Good to see you, Kevin.
Hi, Simon. Lovely to see you again.
Thank you very much for joining us in the studio today. So, Kevin, in just a couple of minutes, tell us who you are. What is your connection with music?
Hi, well, I'm Kevin Wilkinson. I'm a drummer. That's my only instrument. And my connection with music is mainly I started life as a punk drummer in a punk band in Liverpool called Those Naughty Lumps, who lasted about 3 years, then died, and we resurrected ourselves in the mid-noughties, late noughties, through social media, and we've done most of our gigging in the last 5-6 years.
That's brilliant, fantastic stuff. We'll talk about Those Naughty Lumps in a little while, but you're a drummer?
Yep.
How did you get started on the drums?
Drums, I was just the typical kid who'd get hammer on the cushions and the upholstery, drive me mad when I was listening to great music in the 70s, prog, and my mum used to go mad, and I was definitely desperate to get a drum kit. And that never really happened till I went and finished university in Liverpool, and that was the time of punk, and I got together with a few friends, and we used to rehearse in a basement in Jubilee Drive in Liverpool, and our drummer was moving to guitar, so they had a space, and that's basically how I learnt drums. But I used to have, unfortunately he's no longer with us, my brother-in-law called Mike Winton, who used to be the drummer for Black Anna in a famous pub in Norwich called the Jolly Butchers, and she was a phenomenal singer, and he played with her for a good while, and he always had his drums in his flat, and I used to mess about on these and used to get really into it, and that's how I first got into it, really.
Wow, Black Anna, that certainly takes me back a bit. I've heard stories of her. Yeah. She's a pretty crazy lady playing in the pubs. Very amazing voice. Yeah. So I hear sort of Etta James type voice, that sort of thing.
Powerful, yeah.
Powerful sort of things. I've heard lots of stories about her. So, that's fantastic. Now, we're obviously in Norfolk, and you're based in Norwich these days. Yeah. But I think early on, you a lot of your musical background comes from up north. You've got a bit of a twang of an accent. So where's that come from, Kev?
I don't know. Well, that'd be my time in Liverpool.
In Liverpool?
Yeah, Liverpool. Like, I went there to university in the early 70s, finished in 77, which is when it all happened. Had a great club in Liverpool, the best outside London, called Eric's. And there was a great punk scene in Liverpool. There was a lot of bands. Some are still going, Orchestral Manoeuvres. I don't know if they're still going. But
they are. I saw them a couple of years ago. Yeah. So they are still definitely going. I saw them at Let's Rock in Norwich.
Fantastic.
They were very good. I mean, not that it shouldn't be, but yeah, they are. Sorry, I'm going to carry on.
Well, Eric's was the place, but there were other places, and we weren't really very fashionable. We weren't Scousers. A lot of us were students. We had one Scouser. So we were a bit looked at askance by the trendy Scousers, but... So we played at a little place called the Havana Club in a back street in Liverpool. We had a residency every Wednesday, another place, the Masonic. And I remember coming off stage once, and this guy with a big afro hairdo came up to me and said, "Any chance of a support playing with you guys?" I said, I'm a drummer, don't ask me. And I pointed to our manager, Frances Crook, who was famous in her own right as head of the Howard League for Penal Reform. And she's now a dame. and she was our manager throughout our Liverpool days. This guy with the afro, I pointed him at our manager. He turned out to be McCluskey from Orchestra Manoeuvres later on.
Yeah.
And the scene then was very febrile, a lot going on. We had, I was there at the beginning of Teardrop Explodes, who once asked me to join them when they were starting. They got Big Gary instead, and who was fine. But I told them, well, we got gigs. They didn't have gigs, so I said no thanks. And I think for my own health, it's a good job I didn't have anything to do with them. Good, Julian of course, was a very good-looking guy, great voice. Played fretless bass. He actually played on one of our recordings. When at the time when we were recording Iggy Pop's Jacket, which is of course a punk cult classic, and from '78. Other bands at the time, I was great friends with Pete Wiley, who was at university doing his first year when I was doing my final year, and we used to hang about, go down to Eric's.
For the Mighty Wah?
The Mighty Wah, Wah Heat originally.
Were they?
And our rhythm guitarist, or lead guitarist, Pete Younger, in the Naughty Lumps, he left and he joined Pete Wiley's Wah Heat. They were a trio at the time when they first started. And he's mentioned me in a book, Jackie Florek's book about Eric's Club.
Kevin's just handed me a book. Here. Is it this red one I picked up? It's called Liverpool Eric's. It's a big red book. Looks like a telephone directory to me.
It's a great memoir. And Pete Wiley, along with the 3 million people who claim to have been down at Eric's when the Sex Pistols played, at least I can prove that I was down there. He mentions me that I was the first one up and dancing when the Sex Pistols were on pogoing, and Johnny Rotten gave me his pint off the stage, which was very nice.
Wow! Well, John's back in Norfolk. He used to, I don't know where it was. It might have been Norfolk, but he used to stay in Norfolk a lot as a kid, and so he's quite synonymous with it. And he's back at the UEA quite soon with Pill, who's one of my favourite Public Image. And while we're talking about Public Image Limited, let's stick a record on, shall we, Kev?
Do that.
Let's have a bit of punk.
Yeah, excellent.
Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, we're back. It's Simon Pink. This is your music show, and it's for musicians and people that love music and everyone else. So that includes you too. Okay, so I'm in the studio with one of my friends and fantastic musicians. He's a drummer called Kevin Wilkinson. Good to see you, Kevin.
Nice to see you again, mate.
So look, Liverpool. We've talked a bit about Liverpool and what you've done up there, and obviously there was a big scene. There was a very famous band that used to come. There were four lads: George, Ringo, Paul, and who was the other one? John. That's it. I had to think about that on there. They were a little, probably 10, 15 years before your time in the music world up there. Did you ever meet up with them, speak to them, play with them, see them? What's the situation?
Well, when I went to Liverpool in the early 70s, I made it a point of going to Matthew Street to have a look at the famous Cavern Club. This is 73. So I went to Matthew Street, and all I found was rubble. There was nothing left of the original Cavern Club. So I was a bit disappointed. And in fact, that was a kind of symbol of the Beatles' status at that time. They'd split up in 70, I think, or 71, 70, I think. And they'd kind of passed into mythology and history in Liverpool, and people weren't making a big thing of the Beatles in Liverpool. Of course, I'd loved the Beatles growing up as a kid in the 60s, and but not a big thing. And so through the 70s, I don't know if people listened to the Beatles then. My wife's always been a big fan, and so it was kind of a Beatle-free zone, Liverpool, in the mid-70s.
Unbelievable. It's changed a lot now. The statue of Lennon up there.
Oh, yeah.
All the Beatles. And if you go, I mean, I've played at the Cavern Club on the stage. Well, it's not quite where it used to be, but where the stage the Beatles would have played at. I've played in there, and you've got the club across the other side, and it's full of people just doing Beatles stuff. That's all there is.
Absolutely.
You don't get anything other than that.
It's a big deal now.
It's great to me. I think it's fantastic, especially the early stuff.
And there are some really good people, solo artists.
Yeah.
Of course, there are a few really, really shit-hot tribute Beatles bands, and they are good. I know they're good because my wife's been to see them, and she's very fussy with the sound. And even when they do the accent, they're pretty good.
Yes.
But she's been up like to the Cavern Club, Matthew Street, and loads of pubs and clubs. They've got these solos and bands playing Beatles stuff, and they do a marvellous job. And it's all come back. But in the 70s, not much at all.
Strange, isn't it? It really is strange. Well, great. Well, let's move on to slightly newer times. I know it sounds a long time ago, back in the 80s. And some of my favourite bands, I remember Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and particularly Holly Johnson. What a fantastic voice. But I think you knew him before he joined Frankie, and I believe he wasn't even a singer. So tell us a bit more about Holly Johnson.
Well, Holly Johnson, he started with a bunch of friends, I think hairdressers at the time. Jane, the singer of a band called Big in Japan.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Who was Jane, Casey, and Holly Johnson, and of course the famous Bill Drummond was with them, and of course the Lightning Seeds main man. I've forgotten his name for the minute. Anyway, they became Pink Military. And they were in the scene, and they were quite dominant in the early scene as well. They were very big favourites at Eric's, Big in Japan, and they were with us on the first real compilation at the time, which was called The Zoo Uncaged. The Zoo label was the big independent. Well, not big, an independent label in Liverpool, a 4-track studio in Whitechapel in Liverpool, and that's where we recorded Iggy Pop's Jacket, and it's like number 3 on this compilation. Big in Japan, Teardrop Explodes are also on there, but loads of other good stuff. I can't remember. There were some good bands at the time, sometimes doing quite innovative electronic stuff as well. So Holly Johnson, he was a big member of the scene, and always a very nice guy. Had no side to him, and was a great character. You've heard his accent when he speaks. He's not putting it on. He talks like that, and very friendly, and I'm still friends with him at a distance, Holly. And and I'm so glad he went on to great things with
Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Well, let's take a break there, Kevin. I've got a funny feeling we're going to listen to a Frankie Goes to Hollywood song now.
Good one.
This is actually a cover of theirs, a Bruce Springsteen cover called Born to Run.
In the day we spread it out on the streets of a runaway American dream. At nights we ride in mansions of glory and suicide machines. Sprung from cages on Highway 9, from real fuel injected and stepping out over the line. Oh, baby, this town looks a bones for your back. It's a death trap, it's a suicide rap. You gotta get out while we're young. Sounds like us, maybe we were born to run. When you let me in, I wanna be your friend. I wanna guide your dreams and visions. Just wrap your legs around these velvet hips and set your hands, cut my engines. Together we could break this trap. We run till we drop, baby, and we'll never go back. Oh, will you walk with me out on the wild? 'Cause baby, I'm a scared lonely rider, and I've gotta know how it feels. I wanna know love's wild, wanna know that love is real. About you right. Beyond the palace, semi-powered drones stream down the boulevard. Girls comb their hair in rearview mirrors, and the boys try to look so hard. The amusement park rises bold and stark as kids are huddled on a beach in the mist. I wanna die with you Andy, on the street tonight in an everlasting kiss. Huh. Highways jammed with broken heroes on a last gen power drive. Everybody's out on the run tonight, but there's no place left to hide. Together, Wendy, we can live with the sadness. I love you with all the madness in my soul. Oh, someday, girl, I don't know when we'll get to the place that we really wanna go, and we'll walk in the sun. But till then, baby, we were born to run. Baby, we were born to run. Sounds like us, baby, we were born to run.
Hey, it's great to be on air today. I've got a very special guest in the studio. It's one of my best friends ever. It's Mr. Kevin Wilkinson.
Hoo-hoo.
Hey, Kev, how are you doing? You all right?
Fine, lovely to talk to you again. mate.
Good to talk to you, mate. It's good to see you in the flesh as well. So you're looking good. Okay, so going back to those Liverpool days.
Heady days.
We talked about a few. There was Holly Johnson, who was famous for
Play bass in Big in Japan, yeah.
He did
yeah,
play bass, wouldn't he? Did he sing in Big in Japan as well? Was he just
I think Jane Casey pretty much dominated the screaming in Big in Japan.
I'm surprised because Holly's got such a
Never known
brilliant
really
voice.
as a singer back then.
And you touched upon Julian Cope as well, and Pete Wiley. Were there anybody else that you bumped into in and around Liverpool, or just knew of them? You know.
Well, I mentioned Zoo Records, and a big part of Zoo Records was, and he's been a name for a long while since. Is Bill Drummond.
Oh, brilliant!
Who's a very clever guy, very energetic at the time. He, in fact, played lead guitar, the very minimalist lead guitar break on Iggy Pop's Jacket. And he was one of the mainstays of Zoo Records, and he in fact, on record he sent our first record, Iggy Pop's Jacket, the single, he sent it to Tony Blackburn. He was convinced it was going to be a hit, but it didn't get played.
Oh, what a shame! What a shame.
But we know, I mean, he went on to KLF.
Of course it was, yeah.
Yeah, and the brilliant, innovative musical creation they were. I think a duo, really. But when you think way back, they had that wonderful Ancients of Moo.
That's right.
And I forget who the country singer they got.
Was it just like Dusty Springfield, someone like that?
No, American famous
Okay.
country singer. Oh, to my shame, I can't remember. Never mind. And that is such a wonderful record.
Yeah.
Now, it was then. You know, I have great admiration for Bill Drummond. He was very, very instrumental in a lot of people starting off in Liverpool.
Fantastic stuff. And I'm sure I've heard you came across Pete Burns from Dead or Alive.
Well, Pete Burns, he was always there on the scene, down at Eric's. Everybody who wanted to be anything to do with music or the scene during early punk was down at Eric's. And Pete Burns, I think, was a hairdresser at the time. A lot of them were. And he was a character. He used to work in the famous record shop in Liverpool called Probe, which is a place where people used to hang around in the daytime. And he was famous for working behind the counter in Probe Records. It was run by a great friend of mine called Jeff, who had Pete Burns there. And Pete Burns would be so dissing of so many poor young people who'd come in and look through the records, and he wouldn't have any time for them, and he'd be giving them hell for picking up a record or wanting to buy a record. He said, "What are you buying that shit for?" But he was very aloof, very cool, but very witty, like all the Liverpool people were. I'm thinking Pete Wiley and Pete Burns, killer one-liners all the time. You know, it's just such a great place where this kind of toing and froing would happen.
It was very much out front and outspoken, and the look.
A real original.
Yeah.
People would say he was really the first punk, although I was called that by Pete Wiley.
Oh, nice.
First punk in Liverpool, but it was really the original. He had his own style, and we know how he always looked, always different later on. He had his own look. And
a brave guy as well in Liverpool, where it must have been fairly tough to do, to dress the way that he did, in a much more feminine sort of way. Maybe this day and age it wouldn't be anywhere out as outrageous, but back then, that he must have found it pretty tough, I'd have thought.
So he looked out of place anywhere. Already in Liverpool in the 70s, he looked out of place. He looked out of place when punks were going around in leather and jeans and stuff, but the long hair, the flamboyant clothes, he took a lot of stick, but he always had the wit to come back. He would kill them dead with a one line.
Oh, great stuff. All right, okay, we're going to go and listen to another track now, and we'll be back after this.
Everybody's talking, no one says a word. Everybody's making love, no one really cares. There's matches in the bathroom, just below the stairs. So finish what you got. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Strange days indeed. Strange days indeed. Everybody's running, I know I'm makes a move. Well, everybody's a winner, I nothing left to lose. There's a little yellow island to the north of Kathmandu. Everybody's flying, and no one leaves the ground. Well, everybody's crying, and no one makes a sound. There's a place for us in movies, you just gotta lay around. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Strange days indeed. Most peculiar, mama. Everybody's smoking, and no one's getting high. Everybody's flying, and never touch the sky. There's UFOs over New York, and I ain't too surprised. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Strange days indeed. Most peculiar, mama. Roll.
Hey, Simon Pink back. That was Liverpool's very own John Lennon. And before that, we had Kevin Wilkinson in, also from Liverpool. Well, not originally, but he's got that sort of, can you tell the twang he'd got in his voice? He now lives in Norwich. So he's got a mix. He's sort of, where's he from in the first? I can't remember where Kevin was from. He should have said where he went. Kevin will be back in the next 2 or 3 weeks, because there's so much more to his story. It was fascinating listening to how he had met up with all these guys from Liverpool, these famous people, and we just ran out of time to talk. So Kevin's now left, but we'll get him back in the next few weeks. That last record was also from a Liverpudlian, Mr. John Lennon. Do you remember John? Oh, fantastic, wasn't he? Wasn't he great? Loved John. Such a loss. Died at such a young age. Such a shame, that is. But John just had it, just the soulful vocals and everything else. He was just fantastic. King of pop, king of rock and roll, king of soul, king of everything, if you ask me. King of Liverpool. And if you've ever been down Matthew Street, which Kevin was talking about, that's in Liverpool. That's where the Cavern Club was, where the Beatles used to play. There is a statue of him, which I've many a time had my photo taken with it, just to wrap my arm around it and so on. Yeah, it's so cool. If you've not been to Liverpool before, get yourself up there, head for Matthew Street, head for the Albert Docks, go across the ferry on the Ferry, cross the Mersey. You've got to be done. It's got to be done. Yeah, fantastic place to go if you're a music fan. Oh, try the big tower as well. Even the cathedral. The cathedral's great because I believe one of the Beatles, I think it was John, used to sing in the choir there. So there's some music history there anyway. And you can go up to the top of the tower and you can see the whole tower. It looks amazing. So, okay, it's not on our doorstep, unfortunately. It's a bit of a trek. It's not great to get to. Down sort of the A47 and then through Kings Lynn, and then sort of head across. I can't remember the name of the road till you get to the A1. Bit of a trek, but yeah, I mean, well worth going to. So yeah, give it a try sometime. Okay, so this is the show about music, about musicians, about people that are passionate about music. So I thought we'd go the full rock and roll route. This is about as rock and roll as you get. A bit of Pat Travers for you now.
Started whiskey, drinking cocaine. Been started whiskey, drinking cocaine. Got this feeling, gonna drive that girl insane. You like a bad rumor, baby. You're all over town. You like a bad rumor, baby. You're all over town. All over town. Well, I may be confused, but you know I sure ain't down. I'm a fast moving baby. I can show you around. I got so much cocaine, ain't never coming down. Snuff whiskey, drinking cocaine. Got this feeling, gonna drive that girl insane. Insanity. Snuff whiskey, drinking cocaine. Been started whiskey and now I'm drinking cocaine. Got this feeling, gonna drive that girl insane. Got this feeling, I'm gonna drive that girl insane.
Hey, it's Simon Pink here, and that was Pat Travis. Well, you know the title of that. Just don't tell the kids. Proper rock and roll song there. What a guitar lead on it. Wow! I did see Paul Gilbert playing that. If you've not checked Paul Gilbert out, he's a bit of an 80s legend who's still going, and he sings, and he does an incredible version of that. So check it out on YouTube. Yeah, he's I was lucky enough to go out with lunch with Paul Gilbert once. What a really nice dude. Can't hear a thing. He's completely deaf, but a really nice guy and a fantastic guitar player. Anyway, that was a bit of Pat Travis. Now, if you didn't know, I'm a bit of a sort of punk fan, and I love a bit of the Pistols. However, I'm not going to play the Pistols. I virtually got into music through the Nevermind album. I won't say the rest of the title. Nevermind by the Pistols. But there's another band with an album with exactly the same name, although forgetting the last part. Does that make sense? Probably not. It's also called Nevermind. And I first heard these, must have been in the late 80s, probably 88, 89, with this next track. Came out on the radio and completely blew me away. And there was a program, I don't know if you guys remember, if you're as old as me, back in the sort of late 80s, a guy called Phil Alexander used to do a Friday night rock show on the TV. What was it called? Power? No, I can't think what it was called now. But it had the video for this on, which was really sort of, it was an old school, bit of a cheap looking video, but it so worked with the song. But it was just the power of this song. Now, I'll explain a little bit more after the song where I think they get the power from and why it is such an outstanding song, even though it's sort of 4 chords really for the main section of it. It is a fantastic song. This track, one of the greatest tracks ever, I think, by a band called Nirvana. I'm sure you've come across Nirvana. Kurt and Dave and Chris. And this is called Smells Like Team Spirit. Take it away, boys.
Pretend
Pink on Poppyland Radio. You know where to listen to it. Well, you obviously do because you're here. It makes total sense, doesn't it? Poppylandradio.co.uk. We have volunteers here. Everyone's a volunteer, actually. And we don't mind who you are, what you want to talk about. Well, within reason, I guess. So if you do want to contribute to the shows, get onto the website. There is a volunteer section on there. And guess how I got involved in it? Yeah, I did exactly that. I just went on to the website, poppylandradio.co.uk, and I applied there to do my own music show. So why don't you do the same? And we need supporters and help behind the scenes as well. It isn't all about presenting. We don't all steal the limelight here. I'd like to. I can't really. Anyway, I was talking about that previous track by the band Nirvana, and the reason why I feel it's so powerful. Now, if you look back at some of the earlier work of Nirvana, there was a change in membership of the band. Before Nevermind, a guy called Dave Grohl came in. Now, if you don't know who Dave Grohl is, you've probably been living under a rock or on a different planet. He is the lead singer and the guitarist and main songwriter from the band The Foo Fighters. And, you know, a few months ago, they lost their drummer, unfortunately. But Dave was the drummer for Nirvana. I know, and he swapped over to guitar and vocals. You would hardly think of him as a drummer anymore. But for me, pound for pound, one of the all-time greatest drummers. Just packed a punch, so much energy, just such a great drummer. And he even looked the part. When you see him drumming, you know, he's laying into those drums. He doesn't sit there and just tap the drums. He's laying into it, really working hard at it. So if you check the early stuff with Nirvana, when they had a previous drummer, who was very good, there's no doubt about it, the previous drummer was really good. But what Dave brought into the band was that energy and power that he had. And for me, the reason why that band was so strong and so powerful was because Dave was on the drums and giving it some. And for me, you know, the drummer is the backbone of any band. Most of them can count, which comes in handy. So especially if they can count to 4, we should be okay on there. But yeah, drummers are the all important. We played a track at the start of the show by a band called Kingdom Come. I got to see those when they first toured in the UK. They were on the support for Magnum. My God, they blew me away. You could probably tell sort of a Led Zeppelin sort of thing. Lenny Wolf was the singer on that and songwriter. What a vocalist, very Robert Plant-like, and I absolutely love them. And I will be playing more of their stuff at a later date, so do come back to check them out. Okay, let's take a break. Let's take a track. We'll speak to you after this.
Shades of things before my eyes just help me to despise the time make me more wise. Yeah, in my lonely flame
fantastic, the incredible, the Mr. Jeff Beck Band. And if you didn't realise, on vocals, Rod Stewart, I think he had Keith Moon on drums for that one as well. So it was virtually a supergroup, just really before Zeppelin came out. And I think Jimmy Page saw them in the studio and thought, I want to be having some of that. Incredible album. I think that one was from Truth album, the first one with the apple on the front, and then there was Beckola after. I might be having it the wrong way around, but that's a hell of a track. My band Mr. Pink used to do that one, I love playing about with that. Anyway, that's all we've got time for now. I'm going to leave you with another one of my big heroes, Mr. Lenny Kravitz. Stop dragging around. Thank you very much. Simon Pink, really enjoy myself. Bye-bye.
Bass. One guitar. Take my hand. I'll take you.